What if I told you that the desire burning inside you isn't a whim, nor a coincidence, but the silent proof that it already exists and is already yours? What you've been treating as lack may actually be the invisible guarantee that life has already signed the contract of your fulfillment. The real question was never if it will happen, but whether you'll allow the promise to unfold. They told you desire was dangerous, that wanting too much would only bring disappointment. But what if the very thing you've been taught to fear is actually the proof that fulfillment is already alive within you? Neville Goddard revealed a radical truth. Every desire is not a maybe. It's a seed, already carrying the full promise of its own completion. The problem is, most people kill the seed by waiting for signs, doubting or mistaking it for lack. Yet once you understand how the law of assumption works, you realize desire is not asking a question, it's delivering an answer. And the only thing standing between you and fulfillment is whether you'll water that seed with assumption and feeling until it becomes your reality. Imagine this. One moment you're living your ordinary day, and suddenly, out of nowhere, a desire erupts in your chest. It feels like a spark, small, almost fragile, yet charged with something you can't explain. That spark isn't random. It's not just a nice-to-have thought. It's the seed of fulfillment already stirring within you, calling you to remember who you truly are. Neville Goddard always hinted at this truth. The instant a desire appears, it's proof that its reality is already alive in the unseen. It isn't a coincidence, and it's not some cruel game of hope. That desire is the invisible answer already knocking. It's the divine whisper saying, "Look here, this is yours." But most people miss it because they've been trained to doubt what stirs inside. Think about a farmer holding a tiny seed. From the outside, it looks insignificant, just a dot in his palm. But within it lies the blueprint of an entire tree. Your desire works the same way. What seems like just an idea is in fact loaded with the full structure of its fulfillment. Neville called it the manifestation seed, a divine promise disguised as longing. How many times have you felt an urge for something bigger, but quickly brushed it off with a sigh? That's too much for me. Or people like me don't get things like that. That's where most go wrong. They confuse the spark with lack, instead of realizing it's evidence that the life they're imagining is already coded into their consciousness. Take money, for example. The desire for financial freedom doesn't appear in you because you're greedy. It appears because abundance is already yours in potential. That desire is simply the echo of what's waiting to break through. Neville taught that imagination creates reality, and every desire is a call to awaken that creative power within you. Maybe you've heard people around you say things like, "Stop dreaming, be realistic." But here's the irony. It's more realistic to honor the desire than to kill it. The desire is reality's seed form. It already exists. By suppressing it, you're ignoring life's own GPS guiding you. You don't reject a seed because it doesn't look like a tree yet, do you? Let's use another analogy. When a mother feels the first flutter of life inside her womb, she doesn't say, it's not real yet." No, she knows that small sign is proof of what's already forming. Desire is the same. It is life inside you, carrying the evidence that fulfillment is on its way, if you nurture it with assumption and feeling. Neville's phrase, "feeling is the secret," makes sense here. The spark of desire isn't meant to stay intellectual. It's supposed to stir your emotions, awaken your imagination, and plant itself in the soil of your inner world. Feeling it as real is how the divine spark takes root. Without that, it remains just a passing thought. Notice how certain desires keep returning, no matter how much you try to silence them. That's because they're not random fantasies. They're persistent seeds insisting on their right to grow. It's life reminding you of what belongs to you. Ignoring them only creates frustration because you're pushing against your own soul's current. And here's the beauty. The moment you recognize a desire as a seed of fulfillment, you stop asking, "Will this ever happen?" and start asking, "How can I nurture it?" That shift alone changes everything. But to really nurture it, one must understand that the desire itself is not just possible, it's the very evidence of possibility. Think about this carefully. Could you even desire something that wasn't possible for you? It's like craving a fruit that doesn't exist. Your mind simply wouldn't know how to form the image. Neville Goddard explained that the very act of desiring is proof that fulfillment is already alive somewhere within consciousness. If you can picture it, if you can feel it, it's because it already exists in potential. When a child points to the sky and says, "I want to fly," we smile because humanity has already built airplanes. At some point, that idea seemed absurd, yet the desire itself was the evidence of possibility. In the same way, when your heart longs for freedom, love, or abundance, it isn't fantasy. It's your consciousness recognizing something it already holds in seed form. Neville often said, "Live in the end." Why? Because the desire itself contains the end within it. Wanting financial peace, for example, isn't about chasing money. It's about recognizing that peace with money already exists as a state of being. That's why the law of assumption is so powerful. Assuming the feeling of fulfillment waters the seed and proves it's possible. Have you ever wanted something so badly that people around you said, "Forget it, it's impossible"? Yet deep down, you couldn't let it go. That quiet insistence isn't stubbornness, it's evidence. Your imagination is showing you a door that already exists. The law of assumption desire isn't about inventing something new. It's about aligning with what is already alive within you. Consider this analogy. No one desires water in the desert unless water already exists somewhere. Desire is the compass pointing to fulfillment's hidden reservoir. Neville Goddard compared it to proof. If you desire it, it's because it's already yours in the unseen. Doubt only clouds the view, but the fact remains, you couldn't crave it if it didn't exist. Many people confuse desire with fantasy, but there's a difference. Fantasy drifts without weight, while true desire pulls at you with gravity. It's like a magnet inside the soul. That pull is what Neville described as the desire seed fulfillment. It insists because it's already anchored in a reality waiting to be assumed. Everyday life offers proof of this. Take the invention of the smartphone. Before it was built, someone had the desire for constant connection and access. That desire became evidence of possibility, even when no one else could see it. Imagination creates reality, and it always starts with someone honoring the seed within. And here's the subtlety. If you've ever dismissed a desire as too big or too much, realize that judgment didn't come from the desire. It came from conditioning. The desire itself doesn't carry doubt. It only carries possibility. It's like a newborn, pure, untainted, simply asking to be nurtured until it grows. This is why Neville insisted, desire is proof of ownership. It's the universe saying, this is already yours, take it by assumption. You're not asking for permission, you're claiming what is rightfully your own. That shift from begging to assuming is what separates endless waiting from manifestation. So the next time a desire arises, instead of questioning it, ask, what if this is already mine and my only role is to nurture it? That question alone reframes everything. But of course, not everyone sees desire this way. Many mistake it for lack, which leads us into a trap most people fall into without realizing. The strange thing about desire is that the moment it shows up, most people don't see it as evidence. They see it as lack. I want it, therefore I don't have it. That mindset flips the truth upside down. Neville Goddard explained that this is where resistance hides, in mistaking desire for emptiness, instead of recognizing it as fullness, already alive within consciousness. It's like holding a seed in your hand and saying, this isn't a tree, so it must mean I'll never have a tree. Ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly what we do with desire. We look at its invisible state and dismiss it, when in reality the invisible is where all creation begins. We doubt the seed because it doesn't yet look like the tree we want. Family patterns often reinforce this. Maybe you grew up hearing, don't get your hopes up, or life is hard, money doesn't grow on trees. Without realizing it, those phrases train you to distrust desire. Instead of seeing it as guidance, you see it as disappointment waiting to happen. So the seed remains buried, ignored, or even abandoned, and the world around us adds fuel. Society constantly demands proof. Show me the results first, then I'll believe. But manifestation doesn't work like that. Imagination creates reality from the inside out. When you doubt the seed because you can't see results yet, you're uprooting it before it has the chance to grow. Doubt often comes disguised as logic. If I don't see it in my bank account, it must not be real. But think about pregnancy. The first months, there's no visible sign, yet life is already forming. Desire works the same way. Feeling is the secret because it lets you nurture what isn't visible yet without demanding immediate evidence. Another reason we doubt the seed is impatience. We've been conditioned for instant gratification. If it doesn't happen in 2 days, something must be wrong. But manifestation doesn't operate on human timelines. Seeds grow underground first. Neville Goddard reminded us, assumption waters desire, but doubt digs it up before it takes root. Fear plays its part too. What if I assume and it doesn't happen? That question haunts many, but notice, it's not the desire causing fear. It's the mind conditioned to expect failure. Neville taught that the law of assumption desire is about courage, choosing to dwell in fulfillment regardless of what appears outside. People also confuse delay with denial. Just because you don't see results immediately doesn't mean the seed isn't alive. Think of bamboo. It spends years developing roots before shooting up to full height almost overnight. Your manifestation seed, Neville, is no different. It's building invisible foundations before sprouting visibly. Doubt can even become addictive. Some people feel safer in disappointment because at least it's familiar. Believing in desire feels risky, so they choose to play small. But that only creates a cycle of frustration. Wanting, doubting, giving up, and starting again. The seed keeps calling, but it's never nurtured long enough to grow. The shift begins when you stop asking, "What if this doesn't work?" and start asking, "What if this is already mine?" That question dissolves doubt because it reframes desire as fulfillment in seed form. And once you see that, the next step is clear. You must water the seed through assumption, letting it grow within before it blossoms without. Picture this. A farmer plants a seed and walks away, never watering it, never tending to it, expecting it to grow on its own. Sounds absurd, right? That's exactly how most people treat desire. They feel the spark, but never nurture it. Neville Goddard explained that assumption is the water. Without it, the manifestation seed Neville remains dry and dormant. To assume means to accept as true here and now. It's not about hoping, wishing, or begging. It's about dwelling in the end as if it were already done. Neville's phrase, "live in the end," wasn't poetry. It was instruction. Every assumption is like pouring water on the seed, activating its invisible life until it pushes through the soil of reality. Think about moving into a new home. Before the boxes are unpacked, you already assume ownership. You don't question whether it's yours. That feeling of certainty is what waters the seed of desire. The law of assumption desire requires that same inner ownership. You don't wait for the papers to prove it. You live in the feeling first. Some people confuse assumption with denial. They think it means pretending bills don't exist or ignoring circumstances. Not at all. Assumption is alignment, not avoidance. It's choosing to focus your inner attention on fulfillment instead of lack. Just like a seed doesn't deny the soil, it uses it. Your inner soil is feeling, and assumption directs the roots. Neville insisted that imagination creates reality, so when you assume, you're rehearsing the end until it feels natural. It's not about forcing belief, it's about soaking the seed until it swells with life. Over time, assumption becomes second nature, and reality has no choice but to reflect it. Feeling is the secret that makes this watering fertile. Here's a practical example. Let's say you desire financial freedom. Every night, instead of worrying about debt, you assume by imagining a simple scene, checking your account and smiling at the balance. You don't need details of how it happened. That small scene, repeated with feeling, waters the seed until fulfillment feels inevitable. Assumption also protects the seed from doubt. Just as water nourishes roots, assumption shields against the heat of fear and impatience. Without it, the seed dries out under the sun of circumstance. But with steady watering, even when nothing seems to change on the surface, growth is happening underground. Think of it like exercising a muscle. One workout doesn't transform your body, but consistent practice reshapes you. Assumption works the same way. Each repetition strengthens the belief, feeding the manifestation seed Neville until it grows stronger than any external fact. The invisible becomes more real to you than what you see outside. The beauty of assumption is that it requires no outside permission. You don't need approval from family, society, or even logic. It's an inner act, private and powerful. Neville called it inner speech, the conversations you have with yourself. Those conversations are either watering your desire or starving it. Assumption chooses the fertile path. And here's the turning point. Once you grasp that assumption is the water, you realize that waiting for signs or outer proof only dries up the soil. The real work happens within. But so many people fall into the trap of looking outside for confirmation, forgetting that the seed grows invisibly before it ever breaks through the surface. Here's a subtle trap most people don't even notice. They plant the seed of desire, maybe even water it with assumption, but then they keep digging up the soil looking for signs. Neville Goddard was clear. If you're searching outside for proof, you're uprooting what's already growing. The law of assumption desire doesn't need external validation. It needs inner trust. Think about it. When a farmer plants wheat, he doesn't stare at the soil every morning saying, "Show me proof you're growing." He knows growth is invisible at first. Yet when it comes to manifestation, people can't resist asking, "Where's my sign? Where's the evidence?" That constant doubt is like pulling the seed out to check if it's alive. Neville warned that this craving for signs is really hidden resistance. It says, "I don't believe it unless I see it first." But feeling is the secret. Believing comes before seeing. The sign isn't external at all. The first sign is your own inner shift. Peace replacing anxiety, joy in imagining, certainty where doubt used to live. Society has trained us to think we need proof before trust. We want bank alerts before we feel abundant, a partner's text before we feel loved, opportunities before we feel capable. But Neville flipped the script. Assume first, feel it real, and then outer reality must conform. Waiting for signs only delays the process. Here's a common example. Someone imagines wealth, then checks their account 5 times a day for proof. Each time the balance doesn't change, doubt grows. That's like pouring acid on the roots. The assumption waters desire, but checking for signs drains it. True faith means trusting the unseen until it naturally appears. Think of baking a cake. Once it's in the oven, you don't open the door every 2 minutes. You trust the process. If you did, the cake would collapse. Manifestation is no different. Desire is already in the oven of your imagination. Constantly looking for signs is opening the door too soon, ruining what's rising. Neville often said, "The universe doesn't give you what you want, it gives you what you are." That means signs will show up once your inner state shifts, not before. If you wait for the outside world to convince you, you'll never make the shift inside. It's like asking the mirror to smile first before you do. Here's the paradox. The less you chase signs, the faster they appear. Why? Because you're no longer radiating doubt. You're relaxed, trusting the law of assumption desire, letting the seed grow. It's like watering a plant and then walking away, knowing sunlight and soil are doing their job. No pressure, no force, just trust. The real sign of progress isn't external at first, it's internal alignment. Do you feel calmer? Do you feel more at home in the state of fulfillment? Those are the first blossoms. Neville Goddard taught that once assumption becomes natural, external reality has no choice but to echo it, but only after the inner roots are firm. So the next time you catch yourself scanning the outside for evidence, remember, that very act is proof you've forgotten the process. Signs come, yes, but they come as a result of faith, not as a substitute for it. And the soil where faith lives is not logic, but feeling, which takes us directly to the heart of Neville's secret. Neville Goddard insisted again and again, feeling is the secret. Why? Because without fertile soil, no seed can grow. Desire itself is divine, but unless it's planted in the soil of emotion, it remains a dry thought. Feeling is what transforms a cold idea into a living, breathing reality. It's the invisible ground where the manifestation seed Neville takes root. Think about the difference between repeating words mechanically and actually feeling them. Saying, "I am abundant," without emotion is like scattering seeds on concrete. But saying it while feeling the relief, gratitude, and confidence of abundance, that's like burying the seed deep in rich soil. The law of assumption desire works through feeling, not empty repetition. Have you noticed how a memory from years ago can still move you emotionally as if it happened yesterday? That's the power of feeling. It bypasses time. Neville taught that imagination creates reality precisely because imagination works hand in hand with emotion. When you feel the end as real, the subconscious accepts it as fact. Everyday life proves this. Think about watching a movie. Your rational mind knows it's fiction, but if the story moves you, your body reacts. You cry, laugh, tense up. That's feeling creating a real inner experience. Manifestation works the same way. The seed grows when you immerse yourself in the emotion of fulfillment. Many people underestimate this and rely only on thought, but thoughts without feeling are like dry seeds left on the shelf. Feeling is the water, the sunlight, the warmth. Neville emphasized that assumption only becomes powerful when it's saturated with feeling. That's when the soil becomes alive and ready to expand the desire. Here's a simple practice. Before sleep, instead of worrying, recall your desire and feel the scene as if it already happened. Don't just see it, feel the relief, the joy, the pride. Neville called this the state akin to sleep because the subconscious is most impressionable then. It's like planting seeds in soft, fertile earth. Notice too that negative feelings also work as soil. Worry, fear, and doubt water seeds of lack. That's why awareness is crucial. You are always planting something. The question is, are you nourishing the seed of fulfillment or the seed of failure? Feeling doesn't discriminate. It grows whatever you consistently feed it. Think of a gardener who checks the soil before planting. If it's too dry, he enriches it, makes it ready. You must do the same with your inner life. Gratitude, peace, joy. These emotions prepare the ground. When you live in the end emotionally, the manifestation seed Neville finds everything it needs to grow strong. The irony is we've all used this principle unconsciously. Remember dreading an outcome so much that it practically came true? That's the law of assumption desire in reverse, watering weeds instead of flowers. But once you realize that the same soil can grow your highest dreams, you stop wasting it on fear. And this is the breakthrough. Feeling isn't optional. It's the very ground where everything happens. Thought sparks the seed, but feeling grows it. When you finally honor your emotions as the soil of creation, manifestation becomes less about effort and more about tending. And that opens the door to the practice of consciously nurturing desire. Once you recognize desire as a seed, the question becomes, how do you care for it? Neville Goddard was practical here. He taught that imagination is the garden, and tending to desire means revisiting it with love and consistency. You don't obsess over how it will grow. You nurture it through assumption, feeling, and repetition until it becomes natural. Neville's favorite practice was simple yet profound. Create a short scene that implies your wish is already fulfilled. Don't complicate it. If you desire financial freedom, imagine a trusted friend congratulating you. If it's love, picture yourself wearing a wedding ring. That scene becomes the vessel in which the manifestation seed Neville grows. The key is to keep the scene short and vivid. Why? Because the mind can't hold long, elaborate scripts, but it can feel a single snapshot. Neville compared it to looping a melody in your heart. By replaying that scene in imagination, you water the seed again and again, letting the law of assumption desire reshape your inner state. Here's an analogy. Think of brushing your teeth. You don't do it once and declare your mouth clean forever. You repeat it daily, naturally. Tending to desire is the same. The more often you return to your scene, the more natural it becomes. And once it feels natural inside, reality has no choice but to conform. Neville emphasized feeling is the secret. When tending to your desire, don't just see the scene, sink into it emotionally. Feel the joy of the moment, the relief, the pride. Let your body respond as if it were happening now. That's how the subconscious accepts it as fact, and once accepted, it must express. Some people ask, but won't I get tired of repeating the same thing? The truth is, no. If the desire is real, the feeling will remain fresh. Each replay deepens the groove, like walking the same path, until it becomes a clear trail. That trail is assumption, and it guides reality toward the fulfillment already alive in consciousness. A practical tip: do it before sleep. Neville called this the state akin to sleep, when the conscious mind relaxes and the subconscious is most fertile. Replay your scene gently without strain. It's not about forcing belief, it's about easing into the feeling of fulfillment. Think of it as tucking your seed into bed each night. And don't underestimate the small scenes. Some imagine the applause of thousands. Others simply picture a warm handshake or a heartfelt hug. Both work. The power isn't in size, it's in emotional conviction. Even a whisper of fulfillment, if felt deeply, has the strength to grow into visible form. Tending also means protecting. Just as a gardener shields young plants from weeds, you must guard your desire from doubt. If a negative thought arises, don't panic. Just return to your scene. Replace the weed with the seed. This consistent redirection is what strengthens the roots of your assumption. Over time, you'll notice something. The scene won't feel like imagination anymore. It'll feel like memory. That's the moment the seed is nearly ready to sprout. The subconscious has accepted it, and life begins arranging itself accordingly. And that's when you start to notice subtle indicators that your seed is taking root. At first, it seems like nothing is happening. You've been tending to your desire, looping your scene, feeling it real. Then slowly, subtle shifts begin to appear. These are not always loud or dramatic, but quiet indicators. Neville Goddard taught that the seed grows underground first. Signs of life come as inner changes before outer ones. The first sign is peace. Where there used to be anxiety and restlessness, there's a calm confidence. You stop obsessively checking for proof because you know. This isn't indifference, it's assurance. Feeling is the secret, and when peace replaces worry, it's proof that the manifestation seed Neville has begun taking root. Another sign is synchronicity. You start overhearing conversations, stumbling across books, or meeting people who align with your desire. It feels like life is winking at you. Neville said the outer world is only a mirror of your inner state. So when your assumption begins to shift reality, these little coincidences bloom like the first green shoots. Then come fresh ideas. Suddenly, inspiration strikes. Maybe a new project, a bold step, or a solution you never considered. This isn't you forcing it. It's the seed sprouting naturally. Neville Goddard reminded us that imagination creates reality, and once the subconscious accepts your assumption, it channels guidance through inspired thought. Unexpected opportunities are another sign. Doors you never knew existed begin to open. You may receive a message out of the blue, a chance encounter, or even an obstacle dissolving without effort. These aren't random. They're reflections of the seed growing beneath the surface. The law of assumption desire reshapes life itself. Here's something people often overlook. You start to feel at home in the new state. What once felt like wishful thinking now feels normal. That shift, when your desire feels less like someday and more like, of course, is the subconscious showing that the roots are strong. Reality will soon have no choice but to echo it. A personal example might help. Imagine someone who longed for financial ease. At first, the desire felt far away. But after weeks of tending, she noticed she no longer panicked at bills. Instead, she calmly planned, trusted, and even felt gratitude. That peace was the first blossom, long before money visibly increased. Another subtle sign is joy without reason. You wake up smiling, sensing that something is unfolding, even if nothing changed yet. That's alignment. Neville taught that assumption waters desire, and when you feel joy before seeing results, you're living proof of the law. The unseen is already becoming felt. The shift also shows up in language. Listen to yourself. Do you speak more from fulfillment than from lack? Instead of saying if, you catch yourself saying when. Instead of I hope, you say I know. These shifts in self-talk are like blossoms on a tree, small but undeniable indicators of inner growth. And perhaps the clearest sign, you no longer chase signs. Ironically, when the seed truly takes root, the obsession with evidence disappears. You rest in trust, and from that rest, life mirrors back the fulfillment. But before the tree bears fruit, it must endure time unseen, which leads us to the art of patience with the invisible growth. One of the hardest lessons in manifestation is patience. We live in a world that worships instant results. Click a button, get it tomorrow. But Neville Goddard taught that desire is like a seed. It must first grow in secret. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean nothing is happening. The unseen is where all creation begins. Imagine planting bamboo. For years, nothing appears above the ground, and people may laugh at you for watering empty soil. Yet beneath, roots are spreading wide and deep. Then, almost overnight, it shoots up to its full height. Desire unfolds the same way. The law of assumption desire works underground before bursting into view. The challenge is that impatience often disguises itself as logic. If I don't see results yet, maybe it's not working. But reality doesn't run on your timeline. It runs on the law of growth. Neville explained that assumption waters desire, but demanding proof too soon only disturbs the process. Patience is faith in action. Think of a mother in her first trimester. No visible signs, no baby bump, but she trusts life is forming. She doesn't panic every morning asking, is it real yet? She knows. That calm assurance is exactly what Neville meant when he said, live in the end. You honor the unseen growth as if it were already complete. Patience also protects you from the trap of comparison. Looking at someone else's progress and thinking, why not me yet, is like digging up your seed to check if it's growing. Every seed has its own timing. Your desire isn't late, it's right on schedule. Feeling is the secret that keeps you aligned while you wait. Neville often said the subconscious is like fertile soil. It never forgets a planted seed. Once impressed, it must express. Your job isn't to micromanage the process, but to keep the soil fertile through feeling. Worry is like throwing rocks into the garden. Patience is keeping the ground open and ready for growth. This doesn't mean passivity. Patience is active trust, not idle waiting. It's showing up each day in the state of fulfillment, tending your imagination, and living as though the harvest is certain. When doubt whispers, "Nothing's happening," patience answers, "It's happening where eyes can't yet see." That's real strength. Everyday examples prove this. Remember when you studied for an exam? The results didn't show immediately, but the knowledge was taking root. Only later did the grade reflect the hidden work. Desire works the same way. The manifestation seed Neville is maturing in silence, preparing to reveal itself when conditions align. The irony is, the more patient you are, the less waiting feels like waiting. When you truly live in the end, time loses its grip. You stop measuring days and start enjoying the state itself. And that joy is not wasted. It's proof the desire is already shaping your reality from within. So the invitation is simple. Trust the unseen. Let patience be your faith in practice. Just as no farmer doubts spring will come after winter, you don't need to doubt your seed. It's unfolding, even now. And once you realize this, you begin to see desire not as a question mark, but as a divine promise already guaranteed. At the heart of Neville Goddard's teachings lies a profound truth. Desire is not a question, it's an answer already planted. The moment it appears within you, it carries its own fulfillment inside. Just as an apple seed doesn't wonder if it can become a tree, your desire doesn't wonder if it can manifest. It's coded with completion. This is why Neville called desire a divine promise. It's not random, not a tease, not life mocking you. It's life revealing what's already yours in potential. When you sense it, you're not glimpsing possibility, you're glimpsing destiny. The law of assumption desire turns that hidden promise into visible reality through assumption and feeling. Think about how powerful that is. Every longing in your heart is actually a guarantee. The fact that you can feel it means it exists. The manifestation seed Neville is not a hope, but a contract signed in consciousness. The only requirement is your agreement to assume, to feel, to nurture it until it becomes natural. Too often people misinterpret desire as lack, forgetting that it's the opposite. It's not the absence of something, it's the presence of fulfillment knocking at your awareness. Neville reminded us, you would not even know what to want unless it already existed for you. Desire is proof, not emptiness. Imagine a child asking for dinner. He doesn't doubt food exists. He knows the request is evidence of supply. Desire is like that. When you feel it, it's because the fulfillment is already in the kitchen of creation, waiting to be served. Assumption waters it, and feeling is the secret that brings it to the table. Neville's teaching makes this deeply practical. Instead of worrying, will it happen? You affirm, it is promised. That shift changes everything. Suddenly you're no longer chasing signs, you're resting in trust. You know the soil is already doing its work. All you need is to keep tending, not questioning. And here's the beauty. Life always keeps its promises. Maybe not on your schedule, maybe not in the way you pictured, but always in perfect alignment with the seed planted. Just as no farmer doubts that wheat will grow from wheat, your subconscious cannot fail to bring forth what you've assumed and felt as true. This means desire is sacred. It's not just personal ambition, it's divine communication. It's the whisper of creation saying, this is yours. Step into it. When you honor it, you're not forcing reality, you're cooperating with it. That cooperation is the essence of imagination creates reality. Over time, you'll notice that desire doesn't just bring things, it transforms you. You become someone who trusts, someone who lives in the end, someone who recognizes that fulfillment isn't outside but within. The seed and the promise were never apart. They were one, waiting for your awareness. And so, the next time a desire arises, pause. Instead of doubting it, smile. See it for what it is. The divine already answering you before you even asked. That desire is a promise, a guarantee, a seed that will unfailingly grow if you nurture it. And that's the ultimate secret Neville Goddard wanted you to remember. So now you know, desire isn't random and it isn't lack. It's the seed of fulfillment already alive in you, waiting for the soil of feeling and the water of assumption. The question is, will you keep treating desire as a problem or finally embrace it as a divine promise? Imagine what would change in your life if, from this moment on, you stopped waiting for signs and started living in the end. What desire is calling you right now? And are you willing to nurture it until it blossoms? If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. because every week we dive deeper into Neville Goddard's wisdom to help you transform imagination into reality. Don't just listen, practice, and watch the promise unfold.